The information that I cover on my syndicated radio show and in my films is of the greatest importance. And that's not just my opinion. The entire ruling class of the Western world and most of the African, Asian, and Latin American world are totally obsessed with social engineering and the manipulation of the human species. You are not even in the beginnings of elite company to these people unless you've read all their publications and founding tomes and documents dealing with eugenics, developed in the 1850s in England, what is the UK today, Britannia, Albion. And meanwhile, above us is the technological system. And then we're down here in a controlled, manipulated, highly engineered artificial habitat or environment. And I want you to understand, I've read hundreds of books written by Carol Quigley, Bertrand Russell, Aldous Huxley, Julian Huxley, the list goes on, where this was all laid out in the last 150 years. I've read Galton's works, the founder of eugenics. This is the real world, not my opinion, okay? This is what affects the entire destiny of the planet. This is why you vote for liberals, conservatives, Tory, Labor, it doesn't matter. Where you're at, it doesn't matter. Bertrand Russell, all of them wrote books explaining how they control both parties. And they are waging war against the family. In all of the major CPS and social services handbooks that have been used in the last 100 years, they call the family a disease. They call fathers the main target. I mean, you can pull this up. It's in Charlotte Iserby's book, former head of policy, Department of Education. And the fact that MSNBC would have their host come out in a 30-something second promo commercial and openly start pushing that, hey, your kids aren't your kids, they're the collectives. And that's not like in a small town, the kid's bad, so somebody stops them. No. This is the state is going to take over the kids from the parents. Forced inoculations, dumbing them down, forced drugging. This is what's been done in all the other authoritarian systems, the communist, the fascist. It all came out of the root and the trunk of social Darwinism, Malthusianism, Malthusian worldviews, and eugenics. Okay? So this is why the world is the way it is. And if you don't understand the ideology of the ruling class, you can never change things. The establishment right wing laughs at me and says, oh, you're a liberal. The establishment left laughs at me and says, oh, you're a right winger. Secure in their little fake environments, okay? I'm actually trying to reach you, okay? This is wild authoritarianism here. Now, listen to this clip. This isn't some guest or even a host in a moment of truth saying this. This is a promo. They're ready for the culture war with all their computerized actuaries and the rest of it. This is the report up on Infowars.com right now. MSNBC host, your kids belong to the collective. It's beyond that. It's really the state is what she's saying. Listen to this.
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Now, see, that's sold like, oh, the community's going to help mom and dad. We're going to keep your kids till 8 at night. We're going to have school year round. It's sold like that. But when you understand what lean forward, by the way, that's a famous Marxist statement. When you understand this, and again, that's a lower level. The globalists are actually centralized command and control oligarch types. But they use socialism at the grassroots as their vanguard, socialism, which leads to communism. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, here's Washington Times. New Obama slogan has long ties to Marxism, socialism. And it breaks down the fact that forward is the oldest term used by them. Okay, so that's what this is all about. Now, I wanted to show you, people make jokes about Obama and Mao. 7 of his czars and different minions have quoted Mao. Mao was even finally taken out of power by the communist Chinese after he killed between 60 and 80 million people. They debate that. Okay, I mean, even the most hardcore communist state ever couldn't handle any more of this guy. They have trendy restaurants worshiping him all over the place. I mean, there's just countless examples of them quoting Mao on population control. By the way, he said only the state should have guns to dominate the population. Duh. It's not about children. But to understand where all this is going, in 1932, Aldous Huxley, who came from one of the most elite aristocratic scientific families, was married into the Galtons, who developed eugenics, and the Darwins. He wrote a book about a future world where there are no families. You're genetically engineered and controlled by an overclass. Basically, THX 1138 was a remake of that into film fashion with Robert Duvall and, of course, the maker of the Star Wars films, George Lucas. He then, in 58, wrote a book explaining this is about overpopulation. We're actually going to do this, and gave speeches around the world, including at Berkeley. You can pull up his Berkeley 62 speech right before he died, saying this is actually a real blueprint. We're going to do this to you, and we're going to put chips in your brain. This is before they'd even really invented chips, but you hear him talk about it because they really had already done it. They hadn't rolled it out yet, and how they were going to end humanity as we knew it and merge with machines, and how they would exterminate all of us. You might want to, I mean, there's the whole book online for free. Brave New World Revisited. Just type it in. You can read the thing if you want. Okay, there you go. Now, understand, a few years ago, the foreign editor of the prestigious Financial Times of London came out and attacked myself and others in several articles, and he said, yeah, of course we're authoritarian. We've operated in secret. Now we're taking over. We know best. There's too many of you. Okay, it's eugenics-based, all right? It's eugenics-based. So just type in, and now for world government, and you'll get the two different articles he wrote under the same headline. Okay, now, meanwhile, they have the government out in Homeland Security saying it's terrorism if you say this exists. That's how dumb they think you are. Here's another one. Thanks, global recession, you made carbon emissions drop a little. And they go on to say, we need to implode the world economy so that humanity collapses. And so we lose the population that way. And again, even if you actually think there's too many people because you're in major cities and it creates the illusion of that, like coral reefs, there might be only a coral reef every 100 miles, but if you were a fish in the coral reef, you might think, gee, there's too many fish here. Outside the coral reef, there's very little humans. It's the same thing with the cities. They want you in the megacities, in their own words, to cut off your resources slowly to social engineer you. I mean, they write about this. The White House science czar in the 70s, how they get us into compact cities so they could drug the food and water and basically sterilize us and then get us all used to everybody dying of increased cancer rates and just normalize that it's no big deal. Here's the New York Times. Having children brings high carbon impact. And it says women don't have kids. And it's got a university study there. U.S. birth rate, by the way, has plummeted. Americans who are indigenous to the U.S. have about 1.5 kids for every 2 adults. So we're totally collapsing. It's called the death of the West. Italy's at 1.3. Japan's at 1.2. It's the death of the West, dying populations, immigrant invasions. I mean, it's total collapse of everything. And Maurice Strong, again, wrote in the 70s with the Rockefeller Foundation, you can look this up, we'll shut down the West with environmental rules, move everything to China, use that for an industrial takeover of the world. Nothing to do with the environment. I mean, they've got just the most toxic waste stuff you can imagine, suicide nets at the Apple factories run by Al Gore, heading up Apple. I mean, it is just off the chart evil. But oh, it's liberal, so it's okay. I mean, this is the opposite of liberal. This is liberal camouflage, okay? One-child policies, all of it. This is what they want for the West. Read the writings of Bertrand Russell about how they use vaccines to brain damage you. And he's, called a liberal. And how they get rid of the families. And I mean, all of this. This is a Nobel Prize winner. Go read John P. Holdren. Just type in John P. Holdren, Eco-Science, and you'll find the whole book free online. You can find the whole thing free online. And then this particular article has all the screenshots out of it, where it talks about drugging the water, getting rid of the family, breaking down the human species. See, we're seen as a feral infestation by these people, okay? They see us as a feral infestation, and they use the idea that humans are bad and that they're the technocratic elite, a super species above us, as a cover, an excuse, an enabling system for their flat-out predatory activities and earth-destroying activities. The globalists are the worst. And that's why they're coming out saying the kids are theirs, because they want to use this next generation against their parents. And that's what they're training them for. I mean, it says, they're training Boy Scouts to kill veterans and take their guns. New York Times, there it is. They're arming to the teeth, and we talk about it, and they go, no, we're not, even though it's all public. I mean, just classic warfare techniques. They say we're going to have a civilian, security force. That was 4 years ago. Now, it's all being set up. And Rahm Emanuel says paying taxes isn't enough. You will serve the government in armed brigades, but the general public will be disarmed, you see. And that you've got to serve the state. And here they are graduating their FEMA corps, who also train, quote, in warrant service. I mean, you cannot make this up. With our tax money, building an army against us while meanwhile denying that any of this is going on. And again, this has happened before. We've heard of this before. Every authoritarian system does this. China does it. Russia has done. In fact, our whole model is basically a Soviet-Russian model. This is how their cops dressed 20 years ago. Now our cops dress like that. Okay, my special report breaks down. They're already arresting veterans en masse, taking their kids with an arm or legs blown off. I mean, it's just hellish. It's all over the news, too. Well, the man had marijuana. We took his kids. And then if the person gets their kids back, they're called terrorists in the news. I mean, come on, folks. This is all off the chart. Let's wake up and come together. Let's wake up and come together. Get this article out to everybody. Get these videos out to everybody. They just want to throw this in your face because you know what? They've already taken our kids. Our kids already watch TV all day. They already play iPods all day. They're already programmed. And now the state doesn't want us as babysitters anymore. They want to fully collectivize. Become conscious of this. We can beat it. But you've got to admit how bad it is. That's what tyrants always have over people, is that it's so over the top. It creeps slowly and then explodes that people just can't believe it's happening in their day and age. It is happening. I've been ranting about them coming out saying, federal courts are now saying that the state owns the kids and the parents don't, and they can do what they want. California gives kids shots without parental consent. Okay? It's happening. Authoritarian collectivization. These people are technocratic authoritarians. They're not liberals. That's why the Republicans work with them, because the globalists are paying all of their paychecks and putting them in power. We've got to create a lobby for liberty and humanity. Alex Jones signing on for Infowars.com. You have been warned, for God's sakes. Follow us on Twitter at The Real Alex Jones. We've got the links to our Twitter and Facebook and all this right up here. And please help get the word out. I mean, I can't quit working. I can't quit thinking about this because I have a basic instinct to defend against a bunch of collectivists that want to make us slaves. This is just modern high-tech slavery. That's what eugenics is. Social engineering.